Hello, my name is Erin Nisi, and for my project I did a literature review on gamification strategy and analytics. So before I get into the nitty-gritty details about how gamification connects to strategy, I want to talk about what gamification really is. There are a lot of definitions out there about what gamification really is, and I've presented two of them here that kind of sum up the general idea that is out there about gamification. Hamari et al. States that gamification is invoking the same psychological experiences as games generally do. Dieterling et al. Talk about gamification in an affordance setting. So they say affordances implemented in gamification have to be the same as the ones used in games, regardless of the outcomes. These definitions are technically right, but I also think they are a little bit overcomplicating the issue. That's why I have created my own definition about what gamification is. In my opinion, gamification means incorporating elements of gaming and play into non-gaming concepts, products, and settings. What does this really mean, though? Gamification, like any other product, requires different elements, tactics, and considerations when you are implementing it. So, depending on the goals of the users and of the product itself, you can have an entirely different gamification experience, and that is important to take into consideration. I also want to talk about what gamification is not, and trust me, the clarification is needed. Gamification is not just slapping in badges and rewards and saying it's gamification. There's so much more to gamification than just badges and rewards. Games themselves have storytelling, characterization, and problem solving, all combined into making it a fun experience. Well, not all of those are required to make gamification work. It's important to take them into consideration because slapping in badges and rewards only is cheapening the entire effect. Gamification is also not the trivialization of learning. Gamified learning does not equate to children's educational games. Serious gamified learning helps people learn skills and increase their knowledge in a very short amount of time. It's a completely different thing from children's educational games and deserves to have that respect. Gamification is also not a new thing. In concept, yes, it is a new thing. The word gamification has only really been around for the last decade or so, maybe a little bit more. However, in practice, gamification has been around for a long time. Teachers and coaches have been using gamification for years to provide a fun and safe environment for children to learn in. And the military itself has been using simulated war games in order to train soldiers for an equally long time. So, gamification itself is not new, but the word and the concept in a more commercialized setting is. What is gamification used for? Why do companies take their serious products and try and make them like games? What is the benefit of gamification? Well, as I was talking about before, gamification is a very effective teaching tool. People can learn new skills in a much shorter amount of time than they would with a non-gamified product. Gamified products are also interactive, and because of that interactivity, the active participation of the users goes up, which in turn keeps them engaged. It's a serious loop that keeps users engaged and participating with a product more than they would otherwise. There's also the social engagement of games. The primary part of the social engagement is competition, so leaderboards, progress bars, all that stuff combines together to create a fun social environment between friends. The biggest benefit of gamification, however, is the effect it has on motivation. The health and fitness industry, in particular, has taken large advantage of the motivation factor. Making something fun and engaging will increase users' motivation to use it. So even just having a small bonus for logging into an application and doing a small activity within the application will motivate the users to come back to that app every single day than they would if there wasn't anything there. So all of these factors combined are the benefits of gamification. Alright, let's get into the nitty-gritty. How do gamification and strategy connect? On the more strategic part of it, not the UX part, but the more strategic part, there is the strategic positioning of gamification. In the past, just having a gamified product was a strategic position. However, now that gamification has saturated the market and is now very common, a lot more thought and consideration needs to go into how a product should be gamified. Planning out the experience of play and also planning out what is part of the game and what is not part of the game in a product goes a long way towards solidifying a strategic position. On the more UX side of things, there is a concept called player-centered design. So it's, as it sounds, it's very much like user-centered design. However, players are the center of the experience and not users. Users and players are very different. Players have different needs and motivations. They are looking to have fun, to be challenged, to solve a problem, all this stuff, so they will accept a less usable product. In games, usability is not king. The easiest game in the world would be a button that you would push and you would win. That is not what players are looking for. So toning down the usability and in turn making it fun, challenging, and engaging is key when you employ player-centered design. So keeping in mind that the users are not who you are designing for is important. Now we get into the hardcore facts. Gamification and analytics. Does gamification actually work? Where is the hard, factual proof, the analytics of how gamification increases the bottom line of a company? Well, there isn't any. Gasp! So, to clarify, there is a lot of literature and proof out there about how gamification affects users' behaviors. Increased learning, increased motivation, engagement, all of these things. However, that is how gamification affects users. There is little to no literature evidence about the hard analytical factual proof of the benefits of gamification. They're just not out there, and I would know. I searched a long time for them. The only possible reasons that I can think of that there wouldn't be is that, one, companies just aren't posting them, and two, there really are no standards about how to implement gamification or how to measure it. Those are the only two reasons that I can think of about why there are no literature pieces about the analytical proof of gamification. The closest I came to any proof at all was in an experiment written by Heilrun et al. In this, they proposed a dashboard with different requirements that users could use to monitor and adapt gamification designs. So you could monitor the feedback rate, point distributions, user progress, all of these things. They had a few different mock-ups of dashboards about how this could be implemented and measured. And this is a good start towards possible standards, but again, this is the closest I got to actually finding any evidence at all. So, in short, gamification is more than just slapping in badges into a product and calling it a day. Careful thought has to go into the product and how to introduce play and what should and should not be part of the playing experience. And finally, you have to keep the player in your mind when you're designing, not the user. In the future, if I continue to work on this, I would try and dig a little bit deeper into the lack of analytical evidence. Try and figure out why there is no real evidence and see if I can dig a little deeper and maybe actually find some. Thank you.